I'll just let you know, I do come from the Eastern Wheat Belt, as you'd probably know that with the name. I've still got interest in the Eastern Wheat Belt, and I've got a particular interest in this, mainly because I'm a number cruncher, and to me it's looking awfully attractive. However, in saying that, I'm probably going to get a lot of crap from the scientists in the room. They're going to say, who let loose the number cruncher in the science sphere, but we'll go with that. As I said, come from the Eastern Wheat Belt. I didn't realise it, but we come from a reasonably big partnership at the time, with 3 fathers and 4 sons, good Italian family. When we used to clear trees back in the day, the old boys used to always make us leave 2 chain. For you young fellas, that's about 40 metres, around every boundary. You were not allowed to knock that 2 chain down. We were smart enough to work out pretty quick that some arguments you just let go through to the keeper. That was one of them. The other thing we had was livestock of all sorts of shapes and sizes. So that's the background, and so Corrine, my manager and task force lead on this, asked me to go up to the Chapman. You heard Tim Wiley speak this morning. I had to go up there and start crunching some numbers. I've built a model. We're just waiting now on some of those final numbers to come through so we can actually work out the benefits to the property. This particular property, I'll just point out, you can see the canola in the background. There's a bit of a green line here. The boys used to drive in there and get bogged every year, and then if they had summer rain, they put the headers in there and they'd also get bogged. And what they've done now is they've selected that strip of land, turned it into perennial pastures. Ruler is one of them, one of the main ones, and they've fenced back the canola, and they crash graze, which I'll go into a bit further down the track. So regenerative ag, it seems to be a bit of a catchphrase. You have the real diehards are saying that's not regen ag. So I've made it a sort of a biological hybrid so that I can get around that argument. Currently there's not a lot of work published on the economics in Western Australia, or for Western Australia, and the unknown cost of transition, which was actually my personal interest. I thought, I wonder what this actually costs to go over there. There's my learned 28-year-old friend up there. It's just us. And I think that there's much to learn, but there's also a hell of a lot of opportunity, I think. Thank you. I see you're not letting me loose with a button again. So what do we mean by regen? I've got the research. I've done a hell of a lot of reading, particularly out of the United States. I haven't had the pleasure of working with the Haggertys or the Savages of the world yet. But Corrine, that's a good enough hint, I think. The components of regen in this particular scenario is no-till. Now, I'm one of these people that likes to see the green paddock and the brown around the corner. Unfortunately, the latest research is showing that that's the worst thing you can do, is tillage. Any sort of tillage. You're letting air into the ground, which is also then upsetting the mycorrhizal fungi and the bacteria and the lominin, I think it's called, which is the stuff that holds the water to your soil aggregates, or forms the aggregates and then holds the water. So the focus should be on healthy soils. That's your first stop. No synthetic fertilisers, minimum herbicide and pesticide. It's a case of you may need to manipulate it a bit to get the balance right. It's all about balance in the soil. Maintain your vegetable cover. You know, you had Tim talking about soil temperature this morning. That's pretty important, because otherwise everything just stops and you're back to hydroponic, shall we say. Diverse species of cover. One of those things that happens that I didn't realise, and there might be some people here that don't believe it does either, but if you put corn, say, and beans beside each other, the beans will transfer nitrogen to the corn, and the corn will transfer phosphorus to the beans. So they actually work in together. And what we're doing at the moment is, you know, you go out there and you see cereal as far as the eye can see, or you'll see canola as far as the eye can see. There's absolutely no chance of getting that mycorrhizal balance or bacteria balance while we're doing that. So hence the diverse, they really push that. They started off by reading about 8 species. Now they're talking about planting 20 odd mixed species into your spelt land. So holistic grazing, crash grazing, spoke about that. They don't talk about stocking rate. This guy, or most of them, talk about stocking density. So they'll throw, say, 1,000 sheep on 5 acres. They'll eat a third, smash a third, and then the rest just stays there. Then move on to the next one. If you eat more than 50% of your pasture, the root system underneath stops. Certainly slows, at least. And I had to do this because I had to justify the numbers I was putting in. And water infiltration and retention. I think we've heard several people today say how much improvement there is in water. I mean, we come east of Southern Cross, northeast of Southern Cross. In fact, if I'd known that I could put another 100,000 litres storage into the soil then, I probably wouldn't be standing here today. Next slide, please. So the key components, pH levels, I won't go into most of this stuff because of the ones you've heard before. The pesticides, vegetative cover, I said, yeah, summer crops, we probably haven't got a thing to have, like, you know, everyone thinks crop harvested, but it's summer coverage, you've got to have that. We actually had more rain in the L3 than Chapman Valley has in the summer. So, you know, we can't just, and the most profound statement that comes out, they reckon, all over the world from these guys is, you can't do it here, it's different. You know, they've been all over the world and they're saying, yes, you can. So, yeah, we'll just go to the next one. This will sort of get you going a bit. So, these are different treatments. I can remember that this one is tillage. Some of these are, I think Farm 2 might be minimum till, no, I think Farm 3 is minimum till. Farm 2, I think they're actually organic farms. But if you get, you know, the definition of organic, if you get down to this guy, have a look at the numbers. Now, that guy is no synthetic fertiliser, no chemicals, no till, and he crash grazes. He has cover just about all year round. Again, have a look at the numbers, particularly infiltration. Per hour, 300 mils. The others can speak for itself. Organic matter, again, several people have spoken about that today. Yeah, so as a little friend before me said, nitrogen, $1,000. Next slide, please. Okay, the numbers. So what I did was, I've used Plan Farm, and I thank them for their numbers. They gave me their numbers over the last 6 or 7 years. I used the last 5 years. Just as a matter of interest, I didn't even realise this until after I'd crunched the numbers, that the 3 things that this particular type of regen agriculture hacks are the 3 highest, on average, over 5 years, costs. Chemical, fertiliser and freight. So if you're knocking that off, it's got to be a good thing if you're pulling those costs down. So what I did was I said we've got a 4,000 acre farm and we're going to put 400 hectares into regen ag. This one here, the control, that's basically your operating surplus every year. This is just the cumulative, so it's just that, don't fuss with that, to each year. He hasn't changed, he's just stayed the way he is, or they have. Regenerative ag, he's pulled 400 hectares out, and for 2 years they're doing absolutely nothing with it other than establishing ground covers. So they're putting their buyer's ruler in, they're putting their clovers, their medics, whatever else they need, they're putting them in there. The costs are in there, but there is no benefit. We're not stocking it for 2 years. Now this is just an assumption. I'm saying that we're going to sort of run to it a bit to get to where we need to go, but we're also not going to have the best results for those years either. So what that means basically is we come over here, we've got an opportunity cost here of 300,000 between that one and that one. That's opportunity cost. If we'd stayed there, we would have had that. But when you get over here, we've caught that up, so we're no longer behind. And there's your difference in your operating surpluses, and there's your difference in costs. So this guy here can drop down, well, top one can drop down $117 and he's in trouble. If he loses 107, doesn't get a yield above 250, he's going backwards. This one here can go down to 160 before he's in trouble. So you've lowered your cost of production, and I think the gentleman before me said again that it's about not going down the pub and saying I'm stripping 10 bags or whatever it is. It's about what your margin is, and most people don't go down the pub and talk about their margins. But that's the difference. So it's absolutely huge. I mean, if you're talking the area that you guys are putting in, and you start multiplying it out, that your benefits, $80 odd, is the cost of production, less. And then what I'll just show you what I did here. In the third year, I said we're going to get 25% return on a crop, and we're going to get 75% of our stock, because we're going to bring our stock back in. Here we're going to get 50% return, and our stock will now put up to full tilt. And finally, out here, we get to 100. So I've been exceptionally hard, considering that some guys in trials, and I'm talking about trials that are doing 400 plus hectares, are having a 40% increase in production in 2 years. And they're also, and obviously they've got that balance right, also water infiltration has gone up 30% in 2 years. So I've pushed it right back just to see. To me it's pretty good. So go to the next one. So that's just the same thing, but in a graph we can see you've lost some income. Once you get up here, you're back out of it, your opportunity cost, and away you go. Next slide, please. That's that Chapman place with the ruler, and then several other things. These things here, it's not going to be for everyone, but it's certainly something that you should be looking at in a big way. It does lower your initial operating surplus, for a year or 2 years, or like I had it, 4 or 5 years. It will lower the cost of production if you do it. It can increase your margin, of course, because you've now lowered, you get the same money here, but you've lowered your cost of production. It can make, therefore, your business more robust. It does improve water filtration and retention, and it does make better use of the limited water resource, particularly the L3, which is basically my home stomping ground. Can you just go to the next one, please? So DPIRD would also like to speak to, and this is again with our gentleman, our 28-year-old gentleman, we'd be pleased to speak with anyone who's thinking about it or is doing it, that wants to work with us. We'd be very happy, particularly myself, to sit down and go through the numbers. Quite happy to sign confidential agreements if you need them. What we usually do is we get the data and we take the name off it, so that there's no one needs to know anything about anything than what's there. But to me, the carbon is the icing on the cake. It's not something you run into and say, I'm going to make $1 million. But if you're getting all this better returns and you can get carbon on top of that, you've got to ask yourself, why aren't you doing it? I mean, I didn't go into this analysis talking about the fuel savings. I think the Haggerty said this morning that they weren't working as hard with the machines. There's all sorts of savings that I haven't included in this. I just said, let's cut to the chase. The rest of it can be all the bonuses, shall we say. And that, one more please. I'd like to thank these guys, the staff in DPIRD, Plant Farm, who gave me all the figures. And there's some of the reading, and I'd urge you to read those. If you're interested, read those. And then that's it, thank you. That's my number there if you've got any questions or whatever.
Thank you, Tony, at lightning pace.